All right, now, massive setback for hijab petitioners. Karnataka High Court has now dismissed petitions challenging ban on the hijab. The three-judge bench observed that wearing the hijab is not an essential religious practice in Islam. The bench, in its verdict, has said that the restriction on wearing uniform is a reasonable restriction that students cannot object to. The High Court has also said that it can't dismiss the Karnataka government's order dated February 5th, which mandated uniformity and banned any religious symbols. Petitioners in the case are now likely to be moving the Supreme Court after the Karnataka High Court's setback. Reacting to this High Court order, Karnataka Chief Minister Basuraj Bommai has appealed for peace and harmony. He's asked people to abide and respect the court's order, highlighting that education should be top priority.
Three-bench High Court has given a verdict that the uniform order by the government has been upheld, and they have mentioned that hijab is not an essential practice of religion. Therefore, I request everybody in the society, in the parents, teachers, students, and those who are concerned about education to whatever the High Court has said, we have to see that it is implemented and peace and order is maintained.
It's definitely a forward-looking judgment. Already the government had taken a very clear stand with regard to this issue. The same has been reiterated and the justice has prevailed. And to ensure that in the schools and colleges, whatever uniform is being prescribed for all people, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, it needs to be adopted and it needs to be ensured that implementation happens in the interest of the society, in the interest of the students. Nothing but there is no other agenda. It's been very clear and it has been upheld by the High Court also.
Only in December we found, particularly by 6 students of Udupi, such confusions had been created. They were saying that we wanted to follow our religious practices. We tried to convince them. They were unable to be convinced and they went to the court. Actually, government did not go for the court. You should also know that. They prayed before the court that hijab is their religious practice and their constitutional right, and court has clarified it. It is not the essential religious practice. Second, according to the constitution, it is a restricted right, and both have been clarified, and there will be no confusion in future for any student. And again, through you, I request the student to follow the judgment of the court and come to the college and continue the education.
The court has held fundamentally that it's not an essential religious practice at all. So the question of public order.
Students are likely to move the Supreme Court now. How is the government prepared? Are you also preparing to contest that in the Supreme Court if it's appealed?
Most certainly. We have raised substantial contentions before the High Court. Yes. If and when the matter is moved before the Supreme Court, we shall answer this.
Any likely to move a caveat or anything in the Supreme Court?
We'll have to decide in consultation with the government what is to be done. Thank you.
But you're happy with the verdict today, sir, because it was the longest of the longest hearings that...
Because apart whether it is for the state or against the state, it settles an important question of law raised and also the unseemingly avoidable controversy. I'll say that.
We got the judgment but not the justice. So this was really unexpected and we do not welcome this decision, the verdict, and we still have a lot of ways to go, the legal ways to go. We might go to the Supreme Court to get our justice, and also when considering the verdict, they haven't considered our constitutional, our fundamental constitution rights. They have interpreted the Quran and the Hadith, but the scholars, Islamic scholars are supposed to interpret our Quran and Hadith.
Now we are looking at just hours after the landmark Karnataka High Court judgment. Government college students in Karnataka's Yadgir city they've boycotted classes and examinations, protesting against this verdict. Let's have a listen what they had to say.
Hijab ತೆಗೆದು ಬರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ ತೆಗೆಲ್ಲ ಹಿಜಾಬ್.
ಬರಿತ್ರಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅದು ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ತೆಗೆದು ಬರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬರಿತ್ರಾ ಇಲ್ಲ?
ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರಿತೀವಿ. ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ತೆಗೆದಾರ ಬರಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್.
ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ಈಗ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರೆಯಲ್ಲ ನೀವು?
ಬರಿತೀವಿ.
ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು
ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರಿತೀವಿ.
ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಬೇಡ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬರೆಯಲ್ಲ.
ಬರೆಯಲ್ಲ.
ಬುರ್ಕಾ ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ನಾವು ಈ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಆದೇಶದ ಮೇರೆಗೆ ಹೆಂಗದ ಹಂಗೆ ಪಾಲಿಸ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು, ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಹಾಕೊಂಡೇ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಉದ್ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಅಂದರೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ 10:30 ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೂಡ ತೀರ್ಪು ನೀಡಿದೆ.
ಹಾಂ, ಅದು ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಡೋ ತೀರ್ಪಿನಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದಿದ್ರು, ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿಗೆ ಬರೋದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದರು. ಬಂದಾಗ ಅವರು ತೆಗೆದು ಕುತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂದಾಗ ಅವ್ರು ತೆಗಿಯಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದರು. ಅದು ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಆದೇಶ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಬರೋವರೆಗೂ ವೆಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದರು. ಬಂದ್ರೂ ಅವರು ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ, ಹಿಜಾಬ್ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಬುರ್ಕಾ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದರು.
ಎಷ್ಟು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರು?
11 ಜನ.
11
ಜನ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಒಂದು 4 ಜನ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರು. ಒಟ್ಟು 35 ಜನ ಏನೋ ಇದ್ದಂಗಿದ್ರೆ. ಕೆಲವು ಜನ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹಿಜಾಬು ಬುರ್ಕಾ ತೆಗೆದು ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕೆಲವು ಜನ ತೆಗೆದೇನೆ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಇದ್ರ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹೋಗ್ಯಾರ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಹೋಗ್ಯಾರ?
ಇಲ್ಲ,
ಎಲ್ಲ
ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿ, ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್, ಸೈನ್ಸ್ 3 ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿ ಹೋಗ್ಯಾರ.
All right, India Today's correspondent speaking to Asaduddin Owaisi, where he condemns the High Court's verdict. He calls this disappointing. Here's what he said.
असादुद्दीन ओवैसी साहब इस वक्त हमारे साथ बातचीत करेंगे. सर, इस्लाम से रिलेटेड नहीं है हिजाब, ये कह दिया गया है. आज कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट का वर्डिक्ट है, पहली प्रतिक्रिया?
नहीं, हमने जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो ऑर्डर आया था, जजमेंट तो अभी हमने पढ़ा नहीं, पढ़ना पड़ेगा, मगर जो ऑर्डर के ऊपर हमने अपना रिएक्शन ट्विटर पर दिया ये है कि हम इस जजमेंट से डिसएग्री करते हैं और डिसएग्री करने का हमको पूरा इख्तियार है, इसलिए कि ये जो ऑर्डर है वो फंडामेंटल राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ रिलीजन, कल्चर, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन को वो सस्पेंड करता है. जबकि संविधान में अगर आप देखेंगे प्रियम्बल में ये बात लिखी गई लिबर्टी ऑफ थॉट, एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ बिलीफ, फेथ एंड वर्शिप है. तो अगर मेरा ये बिलीफ है कि मैं सर पे हिजाब पहनूंगी तो वो तो मेरा इख्तियार है. और तीसरी बात ये है कि हम ये चाहेंगे कि ये पूरा एसेंशियल रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिस का जो टेस्ट है ये कोर्ट्स ऑफ लॉ है, कोर्ट ऑफ रिलीजन तो नहीं है. आप क्यों उसको देखें एसेंशियल कौन है तो है नहीं है.
जैसे सिखिज्म में टर्बन को यानी कि पगड़ी को, किरपान को एसेंशियल माना गया, हिजाब को नहीं माना गया.
नहीं, सुनिए, हम यही तो कह रहे हैं कि एसेंशियलिटी का जो टेस्ट है वो कोर्ट कैसे तय करेगा. तो इसीलिए इसको अपील करने की जरूरत है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट में वहाँ ऑलरेडी सुप्रीम कोर्ट साबरीमाला के केस को सुन रही है कि वो प्रैक्टिस एसेंशियल है या नहीं है. और हेड स्कार्फ को आप बैन करने का मतलब ये है कि वो उन मुस्लिम लड़कियों को, उनके बिलीफ को हर्ट करता है. और ये कहा जा रहा है कि आप या तो अपने रिलीजन पर चलिए या एजुकेशन को छोड़ दीजिए. हमारा मानना ये कि एजुकेशन जारी रहेगा हमारे बिलीफ के साथ. और हिजाब पहनने से देखिए सरकार इंटरवीन कब कर सकती है, जब मेरा एक्शन जो है वो किसी को हर्ट कर रहा है, हार्म कर रहा है, तो किसी को हार्म नहीं हो रहा है और यूनिफॉर्मिटी लाएगा. ये तो ये बताइए, यूनिफॉर्म अगर आप कोई पहन भी लेगा तो क्या उसका रिलीजन नहीं मालूम होगा? कोई अगर यूनिफॉर्म पहनेगा तो नहीं मालूम होगा कि कौन एक रिच माँ बाप का बेटा है, कौन गरीब माँ बाप की बेटी है. क्या यूनिफॉर्म पहनने से नहीं मालूम होगा कि किसकी कास्ट क्या है, किसका बिलीफ क्या है. तो ये बात में दम नहीं है. देखिए, आयरलैंड सरकार ने जब पुलिस यूनिफॉर्म में हिजाब और सिख टर्बन की जाती, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने उसको एक्सेप्ट किया, वेलकम किया. तो वहां पर क्यों एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे? तो ये आखिरी बात, बीजेपी ने इसको शुरू किया, ये सब गड़बड़ बीजेपी ने शुरू की. अब मामला कोर्ट को गया है, कोर्ट से ऑर्डर आ गया. ये
सुप्रीम कोर्ट को अपील करेंगे. ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड भी अपील करने की बात कर रही है इस मामले में.
हाँ, करेंगी. मुझे नहीं मालूम ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम पर्सनल बोर्ड क्या करेगा, मगर मेरा मानना ये कि ये जजमेंट आर्टिकल 15 के भी खिलाफ है जो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन को प्रोहिबिट करता. तो इसीलिए हम ये करते हैं कि ये और अपील होगी सुप्रीम कोर्ट में. इन petitioners को अपील करना है. हमारे MIM पार्टी के भी एक लीडर कर्नाटका के अपील उसमें petitioner थे, वो भी हम उनसे बात करेंगे, अपील करें. और इसका एक फार रीचिंग इम्पैक्ट होगा. आप देखेंगे, आप हर जगह पर तंग करना शुरू कर देंगे, हर जगह पे लड़कियों को तंग करना शुरू करेंगे. अरे भाई, तालीम हासिल कर रहे हैं वहां तंग करेंगे आप लोग. देखिए, अब तो ये है, अब तक इनिशियल रिएक्शन मेरा यही है.
ठीक है, मैं महबूबा मुफ्ती भी कह रही हैं कि एक जगह आप महिला सशक्तिकरण की बात करती हैं, दूसरी जगह उनको चूज करने भी नहीं दे रहे हैं, उनका राइट टू हिजाब या राइट टू फ्रीडम के अंडर ये जो पूरी बात है वो आ रही है।
नहीं, मेरा रिएक्शन मैं आपको दिया हूँ, मेरा बोलना ये है आपको जो मैं दिया हूँ।
ठीक है, असादुद्दीन ओवैसी साहब कह रहे हैं कि बाकायदा इसको किसी तरीके से अपील करने की कोशिश करेंगे सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, और ये भी कह रहे हैं कि आने वाले समय में इसमें बड़े रैमिफिकेशंस हो सकते हैं क्योंकि काफी संवेदनशील ये मामला है। लेकिन बिल्कुल असहमति जताते हुए कर्नाटक हाईकोर्ट के इस वर्डिक्ट से असादुद्दीन ओवैसी साहब ने कहा है कि जरूर इस पे अपील की जाएगी। हिजाब को लेकर बहुत बड़ा मामला ये है और आगे जाके देखना होगा कि किस तरीके से सुप्रीम कोर्ट के दरवाजे इस मामले में भी खटखटाए जा सकते हैं। अभिषेक सिंह के साथ नई दिल्ली से मैं मिलन शर्मा, आज तक।
All right, there we saw Asaduddin Owaisi, who speaks on hijab and the verdict that's come by the Karnataka High Court. Not very happy and pleased, calling this a violation of constitutional rights and urging those counsel and petitioners to approach the Supreme Court. Now, this was expected. We see that several opposition leaders now calling this as an unfavorable verdict by the High Court. In fact, many of them calling this a violation of fundamental rights, of constitutional rights. These are pro-hijab voices, of course, that I'm bringing to you. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to cut across to Seher Faraz, who's a Bengalurian. She's an entrepreneur herself, has been very keenly observing the developments on the hijab issue. In fact, I'd like to definitely say and remind our viewers that Seher was one girl who used to wear the hijab briefly and then took it off and then wears it if she wants to. She calls it her personal choice and wants to do it when she wants to do it. Seher, you've spoken in the past as well, and now the High Court verdict is out. Based on the verdict, it says that hijab is not an essential religious practice. Therefore, don't fight it. Just follow the guidelines the institutions have set. Uniformity is mandatory. You cannot refuse it.
Yes. I won't say I was surprised when this came out because, like I mentioned earlier, just the fact that this has become a point of discussion at this level, I thought was quite bizarre. The fact that a woman in India cannot cover herself for her personal choice, I thought itself is not the right way to go. But yes, so firstly, let's clarify, is hijab mandatory in Islam or not? So my view on this would be yes, it is mandatory. It is definitely mandatory, and it is recognized internationally in many, many uniforms, that it be airlines, that it be anywhere, passport office, you can take a picture with your hijab. So for the court all of a sudden to say that it is not an obligatory act or a command in Islam, I don't know what their criteria is or where they looked at when giving out this verdict. So that would be one. The second thing would be whether or not it is a religious command or not. Just the fact that the government is asking a woman to uncover herself, okay, that itself does not make sense. And like many other people who came on here said, you're literally telling a woman either you choose to follow your religion or you choose education, which I don't think is the practice of our country. India is known for the love and the diversity that we spread all around. And just bringing these issues up, especially in the middle of exams, when things are so crucial for so many students, to bring this up and make this the point of discussion, I think is completely bizarre. This could have been handled later if it really needed to, which I don't think it needed to, but if it had to, they could have even waited for the exams to finish. But the timing is so crucial, and it's unnecessary right now to, put students through so much stress.
Seher, many of the students, even today, in fact, today itself in the Yadgir district of Karnataka, almost 30 students refused to write their preliminary examinations. They returned home because now they feel torn apart between, on one side, families insisting that the girls wear the hijab and go to schools, and on the other, the institutions saying that you're not allowed inside classrooms. So it's the girls eventually bearing the brunt. But what would you say to those parents who are... What would you say to those parents who are enforcing hijab? Many of those girls are not able to take off the hijab because their parents insist they can't.
See, so now when it comes to Islam, okay, in general, right, Islam commands you to do something, but it also says do not forced in religion. Let the front person come to religion on his own or on her own, right? And you have to understand there are many students that religion is a very big part of their lives, right? It's basically asking them to live how they want to or choose education. So in this case, I would say that, let the exams finish. Even to all the schools, let the exams finish. Give people time to process what is going on, right? And if they want to go to Supreme Court, they're free to do so. But don't do it at such a crucial time where basically you're putting the entire year of a student to stake.
Seher, stay with us. Speaking of students and the student community, Dhruv Jatti comes from the Bangalore student community. He's been rallying for student rights in the city of Bengaluru. Dhruv, this verdict now comes as a setback to all those students who want to wear hijab inside classrooms. We saw the kind of repercussions post the interim verdict itself, where large-scale institutions issued a blanket ban. Many of those even that were allowing for hijab now aren't. But this is a High Court's verdict that needs to be followed. Uniformity needs to be maintained, and there is no debate furthermore, of course, unless the Supreme Court intervenes. How would you look at this?
So what we need to understand is that the court verdict that's come out is very new to a traditional society that was following the whole pattern of wearing a hijab and going to classes. So it's a matter of time as to how students are going to adapt to this change. Like we saw in Yadgir, students were not ready to adapt. We're going to have to face those challenges as well. This is where government intervention is very important. As the order was passed, there has to be some sort of counseling given to students, whether on how they should go about it, because this is a very, very sort of volatile situation. Looking at how the timing is with exams right into the picture, final exams for many degree students as well. So it's a matter of losing a degree by the end of it. So it's a very, very feeble situation, and government intervention is very important. Counseling is what is recommended at this point of time. Whether or not it goes to the Supreme Court or what happens to the Supreme Court is secondary. But the immediate ramifications is what we should be tackling at this point of time.
And what are the immediate ramifications that you are foreseeing? What we saw today is one classic example. In Yadgir, students refused to write the exams. They walked away home. In fact, those girls say that we want to consult with our families and our parents and then decide whether we want to take off the hijab and come in. Traditionally, several Muslim families in the country, in India, are still very, very conservative. They're very adamant on wearing the hijab. This is a conversation and a debate that we should ideally have outside educational institutions, but unfortunately, it's reduced to these students bearing the brunt at the end of it. So the ramifications we saw already unfolding today as a classic example. Do you see this happening more in the days to come?
Yeah, I think it's surely going to affect the whole part of how the traditional system is being blocked. So this is where we have to sort of come up with some level of intervention. NGOs, families, societies, government all put together have to come back and bring in the peace within society, promote education amongst Muslim women at this point of time, because that's what's at stake.
All right, stay with us. I'm going to cut across to Seher. Seher, Dhruv, who's integral part of the student community in Bangalore, says, promote education. Do you think this should also resonate among Muslim families altogether, that, let's for a moment keep religion aside, let's push for girls to be educated? Currently, we have Muslim families who are very conservative in many rural areas, even urban areas for that matter. Parents not very comfortable allowing their girls to go to colleges or schools wearing the hijab. Now, what kind of conditioning do they really need? And is it necessary at this point?
See, I personally feel like put religion aside for a while is hard. Because for some people, religion is what they live for, right? For them, it is the afterlife that matters or whatever. So they live for their religion. So to tell a person, okay, you put religion aside and you pursue your education is very difficult. For them, it's not different, right? They're living a life based on what their beliefs are. So you cannot tell them, leave your beliefs aside and you come ahead and you educate yourself. And I completely agree with Dhruv when he says, we have to tackle the situation right now. You are putting the degrees of many girls at stake, which they have spent many, many years to do, right? To achieve. So why now? Why in the middle of exams, right? And to tell parents or any, woman right now, okay, you know what, forget it, just don't wear it and just go. It's basically asking her to leave her identity behind. See, there's a different, everyone has a different level at which they, can be pushed. Tomorrow, like I had mentioned previously, if someone tells you, okay, you know what, security reasons, don't wear a top and go to school tomorrow, would you do that? Okay, it's fine. As long as I get my education, I will go to school topless. Will you do that? No, you will not. So similarly, for certain women, a hijab is that essential or that obligatory for them. So to tell them, okay, remove your scarf and go and study, it's not something many people would be up to. And I don't think that's something we can even.
No, but the Karnataka government, Seher, and their views is that in classroom, all of them should maintain uniformity, which means that nobody should be distinguished between religions. If you're in a classroom, as a person viewing the class should not know which person comes from what religious background, because this is good conditioning for students in school level, because then they will learn to accept and unite as citizens and leave any religious discrimination aside. This is the Karnataka government's view when they define uniformity. Go on.
So I personally feel like we don't need to train students to not know who the front person is or which religions they come from. We need to train students to tolerate and accept other religions, right? It's not about being robots in a class. It's about being a part of a community that is diverse. Why would you not want the front person to know that this person is a Muslim or this person is a Christian or this person is a Hindu? Why? That's not the point. That's not what India is known for. India is known for their diversity. It's known for their tolerance. It's known for the acceptance. You should be able to sit in a classroom beside someone who is not of the same faith as you and not be biased and not be discriminatory. But by doing stuff like this, whether it be inside a school or whether it be walking on a street, you are instigating bias. You are instigating people to be discriminatory against other religions, which I feel is completely not what India is all about. India is about peace, it's about love, it's about spreading love, it's about accepting diversity. And by doing stuff like this, I feel like you're taking away the identity of what India is. India is known for these stuff. And this acts like this is what is taking India away from the characters.
Seher, that's certainly views that resonate in the country in many sections of the society, but you have a larger section that says, why do you want to wear religion in your sleeve when it comes to educational institutions? Just leave it out for a moment. Inside classroom, let's focus on education. Do you believe that hijab interferes in education in any way?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like when we put out rules or laws or regulations, there needs to be a reasoning behind it. Like somebody else had mentioned previously, is it harming society? Is it coming between her pen and her paper? What is going on? Is it not? Is it restraining her from hearing the professor? Why? When internationally hijab is known as a compulsory part of the Islamic religion and it is accepted in so many uniforms, why do you feel like it is restricting a student from learning, right? Is it harmful? What's going on? There needs to be a reasoning. When a verdict is given by court, they need to tell us why. Why is it harmful? Or why did you wake up after so many years and all of a sudden decide that no, this is not acceptable in the school, right? There needs to be a reason.
Seher, we've heard you loud and clear, and thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Dhruv, for joining us. Let's hope there's peace and harmony maintained, at least until a proper solution is brought about to this debate. Let's hope calm prevails in the state of Karnataka. Thank you very much.